Hello guys, Video Master Gary here, and today we look at a game by Magnus Carlsen. This is the first episode of Why Magnus Carlsen Wins. Alright, so I picked a game where he played Anand in the 2012 Grand Slam final. Let's start. Carlsen's playing white, Anand's playing black. Carlsen set up e4, Anand replied with Sicilian, and throughout this game I'll mention what sets Magnus apart from other grandmasters. And one of the first things is that Magnus has a really deep understanding of the game. So he mastered all the openings already, and he picks the openings. He strays away from main scene openings, and even if he does play the mainstream openings, he says in his Reddit AMA, he said that he prefers to give main scene openings his own spin. So in this game, he he shied away from all theoretical battles and played knight f3 d6 bishop b5 check, the anti-Sicilian line. So he's not playing the open Sicilian with d4, c takes, knight takes, which may lead to a notch draw, for example, where Anand was very heavily prepared. So Carlsen prefers to play actual chess where they think, so he prefers to go into original positions that are more uncharted, because he's confident that he can outmaneuver, outclass, outplay the opponent basically in the middle game. So bishop b5 check, Anand played bishop d7, Carlsen takes, Anand took back with the queen, and now white has two options. He can either castle and then play c3 and d4 here. However, it's hard to achieve this because the moment white castles, black starts to assault on the pawn on e4, and when white, for example, protects, he has a hard time protecting it, because if he protects it with the knight, now unfortunately this pawn becomes blocked, and any way for white to open the position would be play d4, but let's see what happens. This transposes into a worse version of the open Sicilian. So Carlsen would have rather played open Sicilian instead, because now there is no white squared bishop. Black has the dragon set up, which is very reliable, and he exchanges bishop, so there's no problem of where to place the bishop, and black has a really free game where he's gonna start attacking the queen side with this beautiful bishop. And white doesn't have any bishop on c4 to attack, and he already canceled kingside, so no Yugoslav attack either. So um, that's why after knight f6, usually white plays queen e2 and tries to play c3 and d4 still, and black continues knight c6, rook d1, and here g6, c3, and now this really cool move, queen g4, pinning the knight, and now it move like d4, also by the way attacking the pawn. So this is a small problem here for white. So white has to play rook e1, knight comes to e5, takes, captures a series of forcing moves, and here black is just fine, because even though they're double pawns, they're in the center, and black's just going to continue with bishop g7, rook d8, castling, and he has some nice pressure down the file, and the knight is attacking this pawn. So, in practice, it has shown that castling is kind of not that effective. So Carlsen played the move that gives white the best chance to fight for an advantage, c4. Why? Because c4, now white is allowed to play, quote unquote, allowed to play knight c3, because the pawn's already out of the way. Alright, and I'll continue knight f6. Carlsen played knight c3, g6. As you can see, the dragon setup is very reliable, especially after black has exchanged the bishop, since in the dragon structure, black has less space. The more the pieces come off, the easier it is for the dragon player to play it, basically. So it's super reliable, and it's probably the best way to play against this setup for white. D4 was played by Carlsen. takes, bishop g7, and f3, protecting the center pawn. Just, bolstering it. Um, here Anand tried to play something else here. So, this queen is not the most well-placed piece. So, obviously Anand could have just played castling and knight c6, but first he decided to improve his queen with queen c7. Carlsen played b3, protecting the pawn. Queen a5. So this queen is a little better placed here, where it has more prospects. It's already pinning the knight, and it's the queen has some queenside pressure as well. So, and also this move um kind of makes white commit his bishop position. For example, what I mean is Carlsen here played bishop to b2. Now, if Anand waited, Carlsen would have played bishop e3 and queen d2 and the old bishop h6 idea, or just keep the bishop on e3 and then play knight d5. So this just shows white's hand, and then so no more bishop h6 ideas or anything like that. Okay, knight c6 was played, castle, fairly standard stuff. And here there might be some tricks with knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and knight e4. For example, let's say white plays king h1. Here there's some interesting ideas. Your knight takes, queen takes, knight takes e4. Discovery. This bishop is a monster. Queen takes, bishop takes. So black comes out a pawn ahead, but fortunately for white, he has a pawn here, a5, and he loses another pawn, but black has some nice compensation here. He can play maybe not exactly that. He can even play a4 here. So I mean, I think Carlsen did not want to go into any of these complications, so he played the most human move, knight ce2. I like this idea a lot, actually, because if black were to take, the knight can take, and this knight is better placed on d4. And I'll play rook fd8. Obviously, one of the ideas against this Moroxi bind, where the white is keeping a nice hold on the center, is for black to free, quote unquote, his position with d5. So there's two breaks here. One is e6 and d5, and another one is a6 and b5, right? So Anand's preparing one of those two things, mainly the d5 one. Carlsen plays bishop c3, sorry, and attacking the queen, and Anand plays queen b6. This move seems really weird, but there's a subtle point. I think Carlsen found a very deep idea here. Queen b6 pinning the knight. We'll see this idea very soon. King h1. So here, they're both well, Carlsen wasn't a world champion here, but Carlsen was the world number one here, and Anand that was the current world champion. This game was played in 2012, and they both understand the game very deeply. So there's a lot of subtle things going on underneath that we can't really see. So Anand found this really nice idea here, d5. It looks really weird because, hey, wait a minute, are we losing a pawn here? Let's see what happens. If white takes the pawn, can you guys find the combination here? This pawn is pinned, but if the pawn wasn't there, this knight would be pinned. There's a bishop waiting to be uncovered. Queen's already attacking it. Knight's already attacking it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces just eyeing this knight, and we only got, oh, excuse me. All right, sorry about that. So we got 5 pieces attacking and only 3 pieces defending, as we can see right here. Now, it it's calling. The position is calling for the file to be open. So black slams the knight into the center, opening up the bishop with knight takes d5. After takes, rook takes, and suddenly we got these four beautiful pieces attacking this poor knight. It's only defended 3 times. You know, just just when you thought, um, even if white could defend this piece somehow, the final piece of black comes into play, and then just e5. I mean, this is just terrible. White can try to get away with queen e1, but then takes, rook takes. Now black has a really nice position, even though white won a pawn. Okay, so this was Anand's idea. By the way, if he takes with c takes, transposes, right? Same thing. This is the same position as, with e takes, right? We know this. All right. So d5. So has black taken over the initiative? I mean, a lot of people might be, if you're white, you might lose your cool and um, start to make mistakes. But Carlsen actually saw this, and the move bishop c3 was played not by accident. There was a point. Here you find a really nice idea. Knight takes c6. Obviously, you have to take with the pawn because otherwise you lose the pawn on d5. So b takes c6. And now this is an annoying little threat with the discovery on either pawn takes pawn there or pawn takes pawn here. So Carlsen finds a forcing move which unpins the queen, and puts white in the driver's seat, you could say. So how do you find this move? Let's see. So what I like to say is you want to use forcing moves to solve your strategical problems. So right now, or even tactical problems. So right now the problem is that black's gonna do discovery. Now we gotta move the queen away. That's our goal. Now do it in a forcing way, as in try to do it by giving a threat or a check or a capture or some sort. So here I'll pick the threat. Carlsen played queen e1, very good move. Idea is bishop a5, skewer. You see how that move put white in the driver's seat? Now white is the one telling black what to do. So black got kind of flustered here, and he played rook d8, rook dc8. As we can see, black was calling the shots here a second ago, and now it's white's turn, and he can do some forcing moves himself, and we'll see what happens. So this move was a mistake actually, because this move puts the rook away from the center and kind of shuts this rook off too. The right move here was to play a5, and this move stops bishop a5 and keeps the rook, in the center file. Now, why is that important? We'll see. Maybe Anna was hoping that Carlsen was going to take on d5 and this rook's going to be active again, but Carlsen found here a nice idea that keeps the pressure up. e5, forcing move, attacking the knight. Now I went back knight e8, hoping to come this way. Now Carlsen plays a really, really good move. Now, this is like another aspect of why Carlsen wins. He puts his opponents in the most precarious, stressful situations where they crack under pressure. Even though the position might be objectively equal, or his ideas might, with accurate play, be nullified, it's so hard for a human to counter that idea. So Carlsen puts his opponents in really stressful situations where he can, outcalculate or navigate through the complications better than his opponent. So he played e6, a really nice pawn sacrifice. By the way, this is a really common theme. Pawn to e5 attacking the knight followed by e6 is a really common idea to ruin black's king side. So Nothing immediate out of it, but it's a very long-term positional sacrifice. Carlsen could have played f4 if he wanted to, but you know, when black can play e6 here, kind of closing the position, and it's harder to see how white can continue to attack. And now this rook on c8 looks actually pretty well placed because white were to take, and then the rook comes alive. So, and it's hard to attack on the king side without weakening your position. So if g4 would be bad because let's say a move like there could be some c5 and take, and then suddenly this queen comes in the game. It could be bad. So e6 puts all the pressure on black. For just a pawn, black obviously takes. Now knight f4. Obviously not take on g7. Just because you can take doesn't mean you have to, right? That would be a mistake because it brings the knight into the defense. Notice how to take is a mistake because you spend a move to get black's knight into a better position. So that's not good. This would be bad. Equal at best. Instead, also play knight f4, putting the pressure on white and black. And here black took the bishop and the queen. At least this time, black spends a move and white's queen comes into play. So we got some nice little pressure on this pawn, and the queen is attacking this diagonal. This rook has some prospects coming over here, or this rook coming over here, attacking the pawn. Stuff like this. So we have some nice compensation. So here Anand played d4, trying to close the center. Queen d2 was played. C5 was played first. Rook a e1. So fairly simple moves. Anand's trying to bring the queen into the game a little bit and close the center, have that pass pawn, so that if somehow white's attack were to fade away, this pass pawn would be dangerous coming down the d line. So black turn, black played knight g7, protecting the pawn. And not only protecting the pawn, black would someday like to give up that pawn and just come to this nice little square. So can you guys find the right move for white here? Just pause the video, take a couple seconds. It's not a tactical move, it's a strategical move. So let's think about what the idea of knight g7. I just told you that it's protecting the pawn, but also in the future, the knight was eyeing the square on e3. So while I was watching this game, I was thinking, oh, why isn't, white playing rook e5, and then double? But first, this position doesn't require doesn't require to be so quick. First, let's limit black's counterplay. The right move here is g4. Very good. This pawn is acting like a bishop almost, because this square is already away from the knight, so it's like a bishop controlling this diagonal. It's kind of funny, and the knight is out of play. The only place the knight can go, legally speaking, is just e8, which is the square that it was a couple moves ago, right? So g4, beautiful move. Not that hard to find, but what's Carlsen doing? Keeping the pressure, right? Keeping black feeling really tight and limited. So Anand does quest right here. So, and white has some dangerous ideas here too, and Anand doesn't see them. Again, Carlsen prefers to put the most pressure on his opponent until he cracks, and that's exactly what happened. So here, Anand panics and plays rook c6, defending or protecting the pawn. Even though it wasn't attacked, 3 times, he defends it 3 times. I think his idea was to bring the queen back here, but as you can see, Carlsen plays this beautiful move that completely nullifies this idea. Can you guys find it? Take a second. Okay. Again, during this game, while I was quickly sifting through the moves, I was like, double the rooks. Double the rooks. Why aren't you doubling the rooks? I'm expecting this move to happen because I'm trying to predict Carlsen's move so that I can feel good about myself. And I didn't feel well. That didn't really happen, so to speak. This looks like the most obvious idea, but think about it for a second. Oh, I already messed it up a little bit, but let's just say rook e5 happened. I don't know. Black can play rook f8, rook e1. Now, even if we were to get this pawn, right? Even if we were to get this pawn, first of all, that's really hard because queen can't go because knight's under attack. But even if he were, the simplifications that would happen would favor black because then no longer there won't be any attacking pieces left, right? So it's better to just keep the pawn there, keep black waiting to see what happens with the pawn, and do some other stuff rather than just go after that pawn. You want to attack more weaknesses. So while black is busy defending this pawn, you're gonna make another entry point, and black's not gonna be ready for it. So the right move was, as we saw with my little slip, knight h3. Beautiful move. Look at that idea. That is so hard to find. So again, queen h6 is going to come, and knight g5, and it's going to be deadly. So let's just say black's best defense idea would have been engaged, but it doesn't work. Queen h6. Only way to defend the pawn on h7 would be to play this king h8 move. And for knight g5, queen g8 looks bad, doesn't it? Now, look at this nice idea. You got to bring the pieces into the game. So rook e4, trying to come to f4. Rook f8. Now, look at this beautiful idea. Rook g1. As if one rook wasn't enough. Rook f6. Rook g3. Knight e8. Okay, so now this is going to be devastating. So black has to give up an exchange with, I don't know, rook f7. And now again, you don't have to take the exchange. You still better, but white can actually play rook takes e6. Rook takes, knight takes, and pick up another pawn. And now once this attack is kind of fizzled out, now we can bring the rook back in the game and convert that extra pawn. Either go here, and then you're an extra pawn. So, as you can see, knight h3 is so strong, and black doesn't have time to bring his queen around yet. So, knight e8 was played, trying to bring the knight to f6. Carlsen doesn't care, he plays queen f6 anyway. Knight f6, knight g5. Again, black is under so much stress here. This knight is frozen, this king is frozen, this rook is frozen, queen is frozen. Only piece that it can actually move is the rook. And Carlsen's pieces are not frozen and out. This queen can move, this knight can move anytime, this rook can come and double if he wants to, this rook can come over here if it wants to, the pawn can keep pushing if it wants to. I mean, there's a million options for white here. I mean, this is just, compared to black, white is a free bird. Okay, so here black panicked again, and he played d3, trying to say, okay, I'm going to distract you. I want to feel a little bit of control of the game. So at least let me push this pawn so you're distracted by defending the pawn or something like that. So what he should have done is to play, well, it's hard to say. Queen a6 maybe, trying to attack the pawn, but white wouldn't care. He just plays rook e5 because if he takes, knight takes e6. Queen c8, I guess. Rook f1, queen f8. And now, white can cash in on and just get that pawn, and then get this pawn. Or he can just play, after queen f8, he can just play queen h3, which I suspect is a move Carlsen. It's a Carlsen-esque move, right? As we know, white prefers to keep the tension and put black under as much stress as he can. And, still win the pawn back and have that pressure. So after d3, now, finally, I kept saying in my head, play rook e5, rook e5, rook e5. Finally, I got it right. After 5 moves of saying rook e5, white actually plays rook e5. King h8. A rather strange move, but I think Carlsen wants the option of playing rook g8 in the worst case that knight e6 happens, right? So there won't be any checkmates on here. So white has no immediate mate, so he just goes after the pawn. So the distraction that black wanted to put actually put him into further trouble, because if he plays rook d8 or queen d8, what do you think happens? Knight f7 check, right? Simple. Not gonna be good. So here, I guess black wants to kind of save the pawn. I mean, at least get some counterplay. And sorry, a lot of people might play rook takes d3 here, but Carlsen said, "What's the hurry? I know my a pawn's less valuable than the d pawn, but let's not even give black an ounce of counterplay." He played a4. So something interesting happened. Black is a pawn up, and black resigned in this position. Can you believe that? Black actually resigned because Anand was so horrified with this position that, I mean, the king is frozen, king can't really move, knight is frozen. This queen, what is it doing here? 9 points. The queen is completely blocked. There's no weaknesses except this one, which is going to be protected. The moment white takes, this rook is frozen defending this pawn on here. I mean, everything is just bad. Can't play rook d8 because knight f7 check. I mean, this is just horrible. So white is much better, and Anand didn't want to continue because Anand, is showing respect to Carlsen's skills. Carlsen outplayed Anand, and he's showing, okay, I know you can win this. I don't need to torture myself anymore. I'd rather save my energy for the next game in this tournament. So Anand resigned. Okay, but let's, for us mortals out there, let's see. I don't think my opponent here would have resigned if I was playing, even if I was playing anybody, even a grandmaster or 1900 or whatever. Let's see how this game could have transpired. So a4, queen c8 could have been played. As we know, rook d8 can't be played because of knight f7 check. So that square is out of bounds. Rook takes d3. So white has got the pawn back plus a beautiful position. Queen g8. And now white can cash in on his other pawns with rook d3. Rook there. Black's only source of counterplay. Takes the pawn. And now I was just analyzing with myself, and I thought black's best chance was to try to, checkmate the king, of course. But white has this nice idea. Knight f4. White's attack is faster. Rook d6. Takes c7. Again, looks a little scary for white too, but this is not doing anything. Check, check, and the king finds a nice square over there. And then there's a billion attacks here coming, and I will show you a couple of the attacks that are dangerous for black. So after a4, queen c8 takes queen g8, rook d3, rook d8. You got the sequence of moves. Now knight f4. So here, if black tries, which I thought was the best try, was rook b2, trying to give check, and even then it's not checkmate because rook can go back. White can even be brutal and play knight d5 here, blocking off what black's only file. And after you take, there's a 2-move combination. Can you guys find it? Well, obviously you can go after the queen, but you don't want to lose the rook and then lose the other rook. There's something very clean here, and that is rook takes a7. Brutal. King is in the corner, has to take, and then the rook comes in and mate. Nice little mate, right? It's got everything. Very nice. So I think I'm pretty sure Anand saw all this coming in. He said, "I'm just gonna throw in the towel. I'm done." Right? So beautiful game. Let's recap what why Carlsen wins. So he goes into positions that offer a lot of original chances. There's not much theory to play off of, and he puts his opponents in the most complicated situations. Now the e6 move might not be winning for white, or even slightly better actually. With accurate play, black could have probably defended, but the psychological pressure is on black, and no human can actually. Maybe Caruana could, but no one, even Anand, who's one of the greatest players of our time, couldn't solve all its problems. In a tournament game where you get 90 minutes and 30 seconds per move, it's just not enough. Alright, hope you enjoyed the game, and I will see you next time. Thank you.